sign up. Here we go. Woohoo! Ready to roll. Look at there. Oh, we love that doorbell. Woohoo! Look at everybody already jumping in. What a wonderful day. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Hi, Sheila. I'm going to actually bump over really quick and make Sheila part of the co-host because as we know, thank you, Sheila. She helps with the behind the scenes quite often. And so she's able to do that. And then I don't see him on here yet, but big shout out to Johnny because as we know, Johnny is the one who takes his time, volunteers to edit these videos and put them up so that you can see them. Yes, I agree, Sharon. Kudos to Johnny, right? So, all right, we're going to give it a second and let some people in. It looks like Sheila's already on it. Hey, Louise, how is South Africa?
Still cold. Getting better.
So,
how are you?
Is your fireside chat this week?
No, next week. Next week we've got Ocean Alliance on next Thursday.
Nice. All right. Next week, we'll be looking forward to that one for sure. Awesome. Hey, look at there. We have Founts today. We haven't seen Founts in quite a while. Good to see you, Founts. I hope you have great stories. That is my perfect little segue right into there are amazing stories in Vertical Space Magazine. Founts has one of them. I encourage you to check it out. We have also Loretta, she's wrote an incredible article in there. Bill Johnson, he's got one in there about AAM. Really, really good content. So I am going to put into our chat the link. That way I make it nice and easy for you, right? There we go. Vertical Space Magazine, phenomenal. It's always impressed me, but I just love the way it comes together. One of the most beautiful magazines, I think, online. So I encourage you to check that out. So before I segue, because I know why everybody's here today, is to hear more about Canva and all that and hear from Brenda. But is anybody got some epic drone story that they want to share? That's just how we got to kick it off. Oh, Bill. Yeah.
So my wife just came in and said that Selena Gomez just announced what type of baby she's having in a drone display. Thought that would be kind of epic.
Okay. Well, that is epic. Yes. Yeah. And now I actually get to see Founts. All right. Founts, good to see you. It really has
Hey
been
there.
since you've been here on our coffee connection.
It's been a little bit, been really busy in the skunk works. So when I can announce stuff, I will, but it's just been crazy. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot of stuff with women in drones too. So, and their emerging technology. So,
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, so tell us a little recap real quick of that article. You've got an article in Vertical Space Magazine.
yes. I'm launching a platform, Tech Flow Beyond, where technology flows beyond borders and boundaries. And the reason I started that is because of women in drones. At CES, right before my interview, there was a lady from the oil and gas industry that was like, "Hey, we don't have a space for, at first she was like, well, I didn't know really drones could help us out, but I'm glad I'm here. I got to learn more about drones and how it could help me." And I realized that there wasn't a space for a bunch of us, geek technologists to hang out and support each other and get really from help educate the young ones and beginners to those of us who are got experience to collaborate. And so what this is it's all about thought leadership, education, inspiration, and hopefully it leads all to collaborative innovation. So I want to have a 80-year-old grandma who's on the site that doesn't know how to work a remote. And then you got some 12-year-old whiz kid. Grandma comes up with the idea, the whiz kid implements it, they go together and they create something new. So that's the whole idea behind it. So we're looking at the blog started, newsletters are starting to go out, podcast is on the way. The first 4 have been recording, finishing up the editing. So, and it's going to be a full platform.
Nice. Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you.
And I
All
love the
technology related.
collaboration. Yeah.
So expanding my geekiness to the world outside of just the drone space.
And the tech from Disney and all and every other hat you have worn.
When I really look back at how I've come to where I am right now, it's all been because of the collaborative efforts and collaborative things I've done with Disney. The audio team, working with the video team, with the carpenters, with the mechanical guys. And that experience is what led me to start USOG. So if I'm able to foster that environment for other people, hopefully other people can realize their dreams in technology.
Awesome. Awesome. So
So if you want to sign up, it's techflowbeyond.com, TECHFLOW beyond.com.
that in the chat because this is all about networking, right?
Okay, okay. I didn't want to
Put
step
it in
on
the
my drone people.
chat.
So
It's
that's what it's all about.
networking. Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations.
I'm just looking to expand the drone world into everybody else's world, because we're pretty awesome.
Here we are. Yeah, we are. Awesome. So before we kick this off and we head over to Brenda, which I'm super excited to have her here today, I want to see this very engaging. This is a great opportunity to ask questions. So the first one I'm going to ask, who's using Canva? Right? All right, we got some hands up. All right, throw it into the chat. All right, Chanel. Nice. So we do have some Canva users, and this is phenomenal. I'm going to be great to see everyone in here. So I'm going to bump this over really quick. Hang on, got to bring up my other screen because I'm super excited to have Brenda Cadman here. She is a Canva certified expert, and we are going to hear more from her today about really elevating our business plan and not making our Canva work look at DIY, which I thought was pretty clever how she had said that. And so we're going to be able to utilize the Canva and some of the kits and learn more about it. Please, I would like to encourage you to ask questions. All right. Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to share our screen here and make you spotlight speaker.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I will share my screen then. And can you confirm that you can see that all right?
You got it. Yes. Yes.
Excellent. All right. It's always, Zoom for the most part is pretty reliable, but it's when you get a little too comfortable that it suddenly will spring a little surprise on you. So, all right, we'll dive in then. Hi, everybody. Really, really happy that you are here joining live to have this training. I definitely, as was said, definitely questions. Any questions you have, put them into the chat. We're going to try to take some throughout the presentation. Also, I want to have a good 20 to 30 minutes if possible for Q&A just at the end. Any sort of questions you have about using the platform. I'm going to be doing this through slides initially, but for Q&A, we're going to hop right into my Canva account. So if there's anything that you are curious about, any features you're curious about, or you want to know just how to accomplish something particular in Canva, let's see if we have the time to cover that, because I want you to all walk away with at least a couple of things that you can implement right away into your own Canva account. So today what we're going to be talking about is 4 key steps that you can take to more easily create graphics in Canva that look consistently on brand for your business without the overwhelm. And hopefully slides are going to cooperate. There we go. So like I said, my goal for today is it's kind of to try to meet you where you're at in your experience using Canva. Some of what I talk about today, you may already be comfortable with. For others, it's going to be brand new, but I do want you to walk away with at least one tip, hopefully more, but at least one more tip or idea that you can implement in your own Canva account. We want this to be actionable, not just, interesting information, but things you can actually implement in your own Canva account. So here's what we're going to cover specifically today. I'm going to talk about the differences between Canva's free and pro plans and how to know if it is time for you to upgrade or if you can stay on the free plan. We're going to look at why it's so really, really important to get organized in your Canva account. I want to make sure you're as efficient as the time you're spending in Canva, because it can be a complete rabbit hole if you're not careful. So we want to make sure that you're as efficient as possible, and organization is a big part of that. And we're going to look at how to utilize Canva's brand kit to ensure that everything you're creating in Canva looks consistently branded. And then finally, we'll look at why templates are your very best friend when you're designing in Canva, and how you can effectively apply your business branding to those templates to make sure that whatever you're creating is unique to your business and looks professional. And I am going to walk through a variety of different kinds of marketing templates with some examples of how they could be customized for different business brands. So we'll do a super quick introduction. My name is Brenda Cadman. I live in Charlottetown on beautiful Prince Edward Island in Canada. I have been an entrepreneur for over 23 years now, and the majority of that time was spent running a website development agency. It was just last September. So we're very quickly coming up on a year since I retired that website agency, which I did so that I can focus more of my time on my role as a Canva expert and also as a digital storage organization expert. That's my other love, and we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to the organization piece. And to that end, I'm also currently there's fewer than 50 Canva verified experts worldwide, and I was one of the first 25. So ultimately, becoming successful at using Canva within a business context means that you're not just creating random graphics or marketing materials that just look pretty. Instead, I want to see folks, starting to use Canva in an organized and a brand consistent way. And I know a lot of you may not have a background in design. Creating graphics in Canva, some of you might enjoy it, but for some of you, it's not necessarily your passion. And for some of you, it might even feel like a bit of a chore to do to create content, or you enjoy it, but you are really spending a ton of time making revisions, spending way more time than you should be creating your social media visual content and other visual content that you need, as compared to the time it would take if you knew how to be more efficient. So what I'm hoping is that after the training today, that the process of creating your marketing materials is going to feel easier to tackle, and hopefully it's going to feel more enjoyable as well. So let's get into the meat of today's training. We're going to start with key number 1, and that is to choose the right Canva plan for your needs. So if you want a way to create your marketing materials, your content in Canva in a way that looks consistently branded, that looks professional, not DIY, you do need to think about whether or not it's time to upgrade to the Pro account. I want to be absolutely clear though, you 100% can use Canva's free subscription for a lot of the needs that you're going to have. Even if you never upgraded to a paid account, you will still find a tremendous amount of value in Canva's capabilities on a free subscription. And I often hear from folks who are familiar with other software programs who have a free tier that maybe is very bare bones, that Canva's free plan really is, it's much more chock full of features than you would experience on the free plan of other kinds of programs. So there's a lot of value, and I'm not here to say you have to be on the paid plan in order to get value. You don't. But you are going to run into limitations. I want you to be clear on what those limitations are so you can make the best decision for your Canva usage. And the Pro plan really is going to make your life and your marketing materials creation a lot easier. So there's a lot of differences actually between the two plans. There's a complete breakdown on Canva's pricing page. If you just go to canva.com/pricing, you'll see, this is just the top little portion of that page. There's a full breakdown of all the differences. And of course, it's going to show in whatever currency makes sense for your location. But I do want to go through some of the biggest differences that I think make it worth investing in if you're using Canva to create marketing materials for either a business or a personal brand. So some of the biggest reasons, the first is going to be the ability to set up and use the Canva brand kit feature. That's going to include the ability as well to upload your own custom fonts. You will not have access to this feature, this area, the brand hub inside of Canva, if you're on the free plan. Whereas if you're on a Pro plan, you can create up to 100 brand kits. So if you have multiple businesses, multiple brands, or if you are creating content for other brands as well, you're going to have the ability to create up to 100 brand kits, and you can keep all those visual brand elements separate from each other in a really organized way. You're not going to have access to any of that on the free plan, but I will be talking more about that brand kit a little bit later in the training. And then you're also going to have access to Canva's entire premium stock library. So that's not just photos, that's also all sorts of icons, illustrations, video, audio. I know that a lot of the icons that I use in social media designs and presentations and various marketing materials, they're all part of the premium library. So, you know, even those little icons you're seeing on the screen there now, I couldn't say for certain, but I'd hazard a guess that they're probably all part of the premium library as well. So it just gives you more flexibility to not worry about whether or not something is going to have an additional price tag on it, or if, you know, I just like to be able to find what I'm looking for, find the image that works best and grab it without having to worry about that. And then you're also going to have access on the Pro plan to the entirety of Canva's template library. You will have access to a really wide variety of templates on the free plan as well. So that's great. But there's significantly more on Pro. Again, it's about that flexibility in terms of being able to design great looking, professional looking content, being able to choose the design that works best for you without having the guardrails in place of, oh, well, that one's only available on a paid plan. It's nice to just know that anything you find within the Canva template library, you can use at no additional cost. And then on the Pro plan, you can also, that's the only plan that you'll be able to download designs with a transparent background. This will be important if you're creating, you know, a graphic in Canva that needs that transparent background without a white square behind it. So for example, if you were creating some sort of icon or illustration that you wanted to blend seamlessly into your website, or if you are someone who's using Canva to create a logo for a project, this is going to be important as well. To be able to download that logo or that image with a transparent background. And I'll show you a little bit more about that, what that looks like and what the differences are when we get to the brand kit section. And then finally, the ability to resize a design into new dimensions with a single click. So for example, if you wanted to quickly copy an Instagram image into a different sized image, without this resizing ability, you're going to have to recreate each image. So this can be a really big time saver as well. And like I said, I don't want you spending more time in Canva than you need to, because you have other things to do, more important things to do. And this can be a real time suck if you're not careful. So one of the perks of being a Canva verified expert is that I actually get to share a 45-day free trial of the 30-day trial that Canva offers directly. So if you have not had an opportunity yet to try out the features on Pro, if you think they might be helpful for your business, I do have that 45-day free trial link that you can check out. I'm not cheap when it comes to my business, but I do not like to spend money on things that don't hold value for me. So I really recommend trying them out before you, make sure that the value is there before you spend a dime on it. Don't tell Canva I said that, but I think it's important to really make sure that this is worth it for you before you commit to a monthly subscription. It is not an expensive monthly or annual subscription. It's probably one of the least expensive business expenses you'll have. But again, it's not about the amount of money, it's about the value. So make sure that the value is there for you.
Can you?
All right, we're going to, no, I was going to say, we're going to move into organization, but I'm going to take a little sip of iced tea. So hit me with any questions at this point.
Can you go back one slide? I would encourage people to maybe take a screenshot of this. Yes, the video replay will be up later, but there's the information right there on there if you wanted to take advantage of a 45-day trial. That would be awesome.
And I can share, do I have the chat easily accessible here? Let me pop that into the chat as well.
And while you're taking that sip of tea,
there we go.
Also, can you share a little bit about when you're talking about that bulk processing, what are you referring to when you're saying that?
Sorry, which one?
Actually, I think Founts had even said great for generating bulk content. So can you share a little bit about what is meant by, unless you're doing that in an upcoming slide? What is
no, we're not specifically talking about bulk, but I mean, there are different ways that there's different ways you can create content quickly. I mean, there is a bulk edit feature now that Canva has within their apps section, where you can actually upload a CSV file. You can, a spreadsheet that will pull a lot of information. You can create a design. You can actually connect it so that it pulls all of it. You can very quickly create a lot of social content in a very short period of time. You know, there's always a little bit of rejigging that needs to be done, because if you pull a big, you know, a really big piece of text into a design area that's meant to have a small piece of text, it could not look quite right and you have to adjust it a little bit. But there are these little features for efficiency inside of the program so that you're not having to start from scratch every single time. So being able to resize things quickly is certainly a help. I could, for example, if there was let's say I had a square image that I wanted to quickly repurpose into a variety of different sizes, I can go with the Pro Plan, I can go into resize, I can click off all the different size variations I want of that design, hit copy and resize, and it will open up all multiple tabs with that image in all those various different sizes. Again, you may have to tweak it a little bit. If I go from something that's very square to something that's very wide or very tall, I might want to adjust the element so that it looks a little bit better, but you're going to have all of the components there ready for you. You're not going to have to start from scratch. So I think looking for these efficiencies, a lot of people get, you know, pulled in by the sexy features like background remover and some of the AI features, but just having an understanding of some of the basics of this is how we can do things faster, create the content we need to support our businesses faster so we can get back to doing the things that actually move the needle in our business. That is, you know, I think those are the things that are worth learning and spending a little bit of time on.
Agreed.
Long-winded way of saying, yes, there's lots of ways to create content.
And with
faster.
the various different platforms, you need all those different sizes, not one size fits all. And you mentioned something about AI, which is right in line with another question that came in on the chat about is any suggestions using Canva with ChatGPT?
There's Magic Write, which is kind of Canva's own sort of Chat GPT that's kind of built into it. I actually think Chat GPT is stronger than Magic Write. I don't tend to use Magic Write directly in Canva, but it has integrated that capability. So if you wanted to quickly generate, you know, 5 headlines related to a particular topic to create social graphics very quickly, or 5 steps to do something that you could quickly turn into a carousel image. You have that capability actually inside of Canva if you want to take advantage of it, or you could have another tab open where you have Chat GPT open as well, and you could just be creating your content there and then pulling it in. Everybody's going to be a little bit different in terms of what works for them, and I think that's the important thing is learn from others, figure out what sort of best practices are out there, see what works for other people, but then figure out what works for you and then just stick with that. There's no one size fits all kind of answer.
Awesome.
So, excellent.
Is it okay to do one more question, or shall we?
Please. Yes, absolutely.
We love it. We can keep this going, right? That's what we're here for. How much of this can also be used in Photoshop?
So none of this is going to be some of the basics in terms of the ideas of being consistent with your branding and all of that you're going to want to use those sorts of principles regardless of the platform that you're using. But Canva is very, very specific graphic design kind of platform. None of this is going to be really directly transferable to Photoshop. I used Photoshop quite a lot back in the days, way before Canva was a thing. And there's still absolutely a place for it. There's still certain kinds of effects and graphic design kinds of things that you can't do yet in Canva, but I would say week over week, they are refining features, adding new features that are making it more of a competitor. And for the typical business owner who maybe does not want to be diving into a really robust program like Photoshop that can feel very much like overkill for a lot of people, and the learning curve on it is enormous. The learning curve on Canva is there as well. But I think that increasingly you're going to see a lot of people who were relying on Photoshop moving to Canva instead. But, you know, there's still room for both. It doesn't have to be a competition.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to the second Canva success key, which is to get organized. And this is an area that is kind of a big source of stress for a lot of people. And you are in luck because it's this right here. Canva organization is my favorite thing on the planet to talk about. And that's because in addition to being a Canva verified expert, I'm also a former professional organizer. And my specialty was organizing paper, creating filing systems. So this is my sweet spot. This marriage between the Canva platform and the concept of organization is where I would spend all of my time if I could. But here's the reality. If you don't want to feel overwhelmed when you're using Canva, you have to have a system to stay organized with the designs that you're creating, but also the images and the content that you are pulling into Canva. What I don't want is for you to be relying on this recent designs list on your Canva homepage. Because what's going to happen is it's going to feel manageable when you start using the program, when you just have a handful of designs. It's very easy to scan through and find what you're looking for. But if you get to the point, you will get to the point if you're using it consistently where you have hundreds of designs, if not a lot more than that. And that's going to make it difficult to sort through, especially if you have certain designs that have, multiple versions. They look the same on the outside, but one has a set of slides in it that another one doesn't, or they look similar, but they're different dimensions. It's going to get really difficult really quickly to find what you're looking for in a time efficient way. And you're going to feel a lot more overwhelmed, and you're going to feel a lot more frustrated, and you're going to waste a lot more time. So if you've never created folders before in your Canva account, you can do that by using the Add New button in the top right corner. And it looks like this little area that I've circled there. If you are brand new to using Canva, it's really the perfect time to set up an organization system before you get to that point of feeling really overwhelmed by all the content that you've created in there or that you've imported into the program. But if you're already kind of a veteran user of Canva, I just don't want you to feel like it's already out of control and you can't do anything about it. You absolutely can. I promise you can still create a system. You can get things back on track. There is nothing, it's never too late. I have done organization VIP days for clients who have thousands of designs and they have thousands of images. By the time I'm done with it, that thing is shipshape. So it is possible you can create a system. It's just a matter of going through a process, which is a whole other thing that I teach. But I just want you to not feel frustrated like you can't create a system. You absolutely can. All right, so inside of Canva's projects area, which you'll find on the left-hand side, you'll see a section, you see an option called projects. And when you open that up, you're going to find something that looks a little bit like this. It's going to have a few default folders that Canva creates automatically. You're going to have one called purchased, one called starred, and one called uploads. But you're also going to be able to create your own custom folders to support the content that you are creating inside of Canva. And at the end of the day, you're going to want to create folders that make sense for you. Everybody is going to be a little bit different in terms of how they're using Canva to support a business, if they're using it to create content for clients, if they're using it to create content for personal projects. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. And the key thing is to create folders that make sense for you. And then ultimately just make sure you have a home for everything and stick to a system. Once you have something that's working for you, stick to using that system consistently. So for example, let's talk about some of the folders you might have. You might have a folder for your social media graphics. And that folder might then be broken down into, you could break it down into subfolders for each of the platform. I have one for social media, and then I have one under that for Facebook, one's for Instagram, one is for YouTube, one is for Pinterest, etc. And then I can further break down, my Instagram into one that's for the feed, one that's for real designs, or Facebook, I've broken down into, content for my pages versus content for the groups that I run, just so it's easier for me to find it. That's how my brain works. Somebody else's brain might work very differently. They might want to break their social media content down by campaign, for example, and then within a campaign or within whatever that category might be, maybe it's broken down into the various platforms within that. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. There is no one size fits all kind of answer. But what I want to also encourage you to do is also create a custom folder system to organize your images as well. We're not looking to just create an organization system for your Canva designs. I want you to be able to have folders to house the images that you're uploading into Canva. So one of those custom folders you create might be called photos. And then it might be broken down into categories that make sense for you in terms of the kinds of images that you have in your account. For example, I use a lot of styled stock imagery. So if you were in a similar position, you might have a styled stock photo folder, and then you'll see I've broken it down by the source website. And then I can tell you that within each of those source website folders, it's further broken down into subfolders. Sometimes that's by subject matter. So maybe there's a folder for floral images, or one for holidays and celebrations, or you might break it down by color palette. It's really, again, it's whatever works best for you so that you can intuitively browse and find it in the future when you need a particular image. And the reason I like to highlight the images so much is that a lot of people don't realize that you don't have to store all of your images in Canva's uploads folder. They just naturally kind of go there, and they just keep uploading it into that folder. And I would really strongly advise against doing that, because it just becomes this bottomless pit of images that makes it kind of impossible to find what you're looking for over time. And a lot of people tend to fall into a trap because they can't easily find what they're looking for. They upload the same images over and over. And that makes it really difficult to find what you're looking for. But also, particularly if you're on a free Canva plan, you do have a storage limit in terms of how much you can store in there. You don't want to be eating up that storage limit with duplicates of the same image over and over. So it's important to be able to create that system for your images as well. Basically, think about your uploads folder in Canva like the in tray on a physical office desk. You're kind of using it as a temporary holding place. So once you've used an image, you can file it away into an images folder system. So I can show you more in the Q&A when we actually get into, when I open up my own account, we can dig into this a little bit more, and I can show you a little more what I mean, if that would be helpful.
Awesome. Well, Linda has asked if we could have a demonstration on how to make a brand piece or a social media post. So maybe at the end, if we could do something similar, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. By then, we will have talked a little bit about templates as well. So I can show you how to find a template in the templates library, and how to create your social media post, and then how to use the brand kit, which we'll talk about in a minute, to actually customize it so that it fits your own unique branding. So let's absolutely do that. I want to make sure we have time for that. And then, when you're actually working in the design editor, if you want to be able to access your Canva images, you are going to, instead of going to that uploads tab, which is where a lot of people will look for them, you're just going to click on the one that's called projects. Oh, can't control it on I've got two monitors going here. Let's see if we can do it. There we go. Projects there. And then it's going to open up the folders that you've created, and you can drill down to find whatever the image is that you need. All right. So if organization is something you're particularly interested in, I do have a free resource that might be helpful. I have something called the Canva Organization Roadmap. This is a freebie. It is just going to walk you through a 5-step system to actually tackle the content that you might already have in your account. If you have a bunch of designs, you have a bunch of images, and you're not sure how to impose some sort of order on this mess of content, that document, that freebie should help you do that if that's something you're interested in. And it's just at brendacadman.com/roadmap. Let's conquer that Canva clutter. I don't like clutter. Okay, so let's talk about the brand kit, because this is a really important part. Knowing how to use the Canva brand kit it's typically the focal point of a lot of what I teach in Canva. And the reason I focus a lot of time on this component is because I believe it is so central to being able to create really consistently branded content that looks professional. If you don't use this brand kit consistently to create your images, this is when you start to wander into creating content that looks very amateur, and with that, like it hasn't been done with thought. This is a tool. This brand kit really is a tool to be able to provide yourself some guidelines to be able to ensure you can create this content that does look easily professional. Now, I am making a bit of an assumption here that you already have some sort of visual branding in place. and that you are in a position where you just need to simply carry that into Canva so you can utilize it across your marketing materials. I'm going to talk about what components you'll need to add into Canva and how to do that. But that said, if you don't already have some sort of visual branding set up, I would love to know in the chat, because if there's a number of you in that position, if we have time, we can absolutely touch as well on the topic of what to do if you're looking to use Canva to create your logo and to create your visual brand elements. So I'll be honest, this particular industry, I'm not sure how many of you already have branding in place that you want to apply and versus how many of you are working without one, but we have solutions for both of those. So if let me know in the chat which camp you fall into. Regardless though, whether you need to create it or you already have it, you're still going to need to use this brand kit in the same way. So we're going to jump into that. But to start, let's just really briefly go through what a brand style guide includes. So in a nutshell, there's going to be 6 elements of a brand style guide. First is going to be your brand voice. That's your style of communication. It's the way you talk to your clients, your customers. It's, you know, for example, it's the kinds of words and phrases you use or the phrases you avoid. It's the tone you use. You know, a perfect example, my brand voice, it's very straightforward. It's very helpful. It's very hopeful. It is never, ever snarky or negative. And I have sometimes worked with copywriters who try to give me something that's kind of, you know, jabby and snarky. And I have to say, it's funny. I laughed out loud and we can't use it because it is not, it's not consistent with my brand voice. That's a really important part of your brand style guide. And then you have your brand story, which is going to include your business's mission and vision and audience and personality and values and those sorts of things. And then we get into the more visual elements, including your logos, your brand color palette, your brand fonts, and your brand imagery. And for the longest time, Canva's brand kit feature only incorporated your logos, your colors, and your fonts. But as of this past March, we now have some new ingredients in the brand kit as well to accommodate your brand imagery. So let's go through each of these components because you are going to want to set up your Canva brand kit and you're going to need to add these components. So you're going to want to make sure that you upload your main primary logo as well as any logo variations that you have. So for example, if you have a logo for your business that is available in both a vertical orientation and a horizontal orientation. So maybe you have something that's very square, maybe you have one that's very stacked, maybe you have one that's very wide. We want to upload all of those versions into Canva. You might have a version that works really well on a light colored background, and then one that works better on a dark background. You might have icons or monograms or illustrative components. We want all of those going into Canva as separate files. So for example, I don't usually use my full logo on a lot of my content, or especially not on my social graphics because it eats up too much space. But for those, I just use this B icon and I have that uploaded into the logo section as its own standalone logo. And I talked earlier about the fact that on Pro, that you'll need Pro in order to download images with a transparent background. This is the importance right now. And I can't, hopefully you can see on your screen, I'm realizing my new monitor here makes these images look identical, even though they are not. One definitely does not blend into the background, whereas here it looks like it does. It's a cheap monitor, I'll be honest. In any case, you want to make sure that the logo variations you're uploading have a transparent background so that it looks more seamless on your designs in Canva. The logo on the left, hopefully you can see the difference. I might need to use a different image going forward, but it doesn't have a transparent background. It actually has a white box behind the logo, and that's because that logo was uploaded as a JPEG file, whereas the one on the right has a transparent background and it just blends more seamlessly into the background. So at the end of the day, you do want to make sure that all of your logo variations that you've uploaded, that they're easy, you know, they're all there, they're easily at hand. You don't need to hunt for the right version, and that they all have a transparent background. So they just have that more polished look to them, because if you have that white box behind it, it's going to look very clunky, and that is not going to scream professionalism.
I think we see different things. Mine showed 2 black boxes, but it looks
black. Okay,
yeah.
So no, there's part of a monitor there. That's a weird monitor image. It's not showing up, but you should see the logo over here. Whoops. The logo here and the logo. I can't move this between 2 screens. I cannot go between 2 screens. This is why I focus on one and I have somebody else do all the other things for me.
I agree with that.
All right. In any case, the lesson to take away is transparency behind your logos. Good thing. Thumbs up. That's what we want.
Love it. And we need the pro plan to be able to have the transparency. Great key takeaway.
You need the pro plan if you want to download an image with a transparent background. So if you're using Canva to create your logo, you will need to be on the pro plan in order to get the version of it that you're going to need. If you are uploading your own logo into Canva and it already has a transparent background, you don't need the pro plan for that, but you're not going to have access to the brand kit without the pro plan. So in a nutshell, if you plan on using the brand kit features at all, yes, you do need to be on the pro plan. And the next part of that brand kit is going to be setting up your color palette. Once you set up your brand color palette, it's going to be really important moving forward to just stick to using your brand colors. And then once you have your brand colors, if you stick to those, it's going to create kind of this sense of cohesiveness across all of your marketing and your course materials. It's going to feel a lot less visually cluttered. What I tend to find sometimes is if folks don't stick to this palette, if they just start grabbing whatever looks pretty, whatever template they've used, it's very difficult to recognize a brand when you see their marketing materials. And it also makes it a lot harder, not harder necessarily, but more time consuming to create content, because if you don't have those kind of brand guidelines in place about what's okay and what's not okay, you end up just getting overwhelmed and confused about what to use. So I think it's important to, not just reduce, but eliminate brand confusion for those who follow you, but also eliminate brand confusion around what to use when you're creating content, and just stick to the color palette. I get accused sometimes of that, stifling creativity, but if anything, I think it's allowing you great freedom and creativity just with some guidelines so you don't spend all of your time going down that Canva rabbit hole that I talked about earlier. And then you want to also have a consistent set of fonts, which you're going to be setting up in your Canva account. You don't just want to be consistent in the fonts you're using across your Canva designs, but also on your website, on any other marketing materials that you create. And if you are working for a business that has an established brand kit, they're usually going to have some pretty firm brand guidelines about what fonts you can use. You can't just choose a random font. You need to be very consistent about what brand typography you're using. So we're going to set that up in Canva as well. And then you need to have a visual hierarchy for that. So you're going to have one font treatment for your headings. You're going to have something else for your subheadings, another one for the body copy. That doesn't mean you're necessarily choosing a completely different font for those items. It does mean that you need to choose a particular font and formatting for each of those. So there's a specific font and formatting for what headings look like. There's another one for subheadings, another for maybe buttons, accent text, and things like that. And then you have to use those consistently. You can't just randomly change it up and use your heading font for your body copy. It's not going to work without that consistency. And then inside of your brand kit, it's going to look like this. With the recent updates that Canva rolled out earlier this year, they've given you a much wider list of a much wider selection of font styles that you can set now. It used to only be heading, subheading, and body copy, just the three. And now I believe there's 8 of them. I think there's actually more below that. In any case, I do strongly advise only having a maximum of 3 fonts though, just because there's all these different options that you can set. You don't want to have more than 3 fonts. It's going to look very, very cluttered if you do that. But your titles might be the same font as your headings, just in a different size, or your captions might be the same font as what you're using for body copy text, but it's just smaller and it's always in italics. The specifics of what sorts of fonts and formatting you use are going to they're going to really depend on whatever your unique brand kit is, but you don't need to set all of these. You just need to set whatever is consistent with your brand hierarchy. And then again, it's that consistency. And what I'm going to do when we go through and we create a social media post, I'll show you where you're going to be able to access all of these when you're actually creating designs, because setting it up is great, but you need to know where you can actually access it easily at your fingertips.
Are we able to upload fonts that aren't available in Canva? That's a question.
Well, you have just read my mind. Because once you have, once you've established those fonts in that font hierarchy and you're wanting to add that into your brand kit, you might find that some of the fonts that you have established for your business are not ones that are available in the Canva account. So what you'll see is there's going to be an option here. Actually, if you click on the add new that appears at the top of your fonts listing, that'll work there, or you'll see on the screen that I've got manage uploaded fonts. Yes, you can upload your own fonts into Canva, and that's going to be really important to use those to be consistent. Just make sure you do have the commercial rights to use them. Sometimes a lot of folks will look for free versions of fonts in order to upload into their Canva account. Just make sure that you have licensed it properly. Canva is going to prompt you to answer that question. When you go to upload them, they're going to say, do you have the rights to use this? If you say yes, you are taking on the legal liability of that. So yes, you can upload it, and I think it's important to do that. And then if you have a set of brand fonts that you are using in your designs, you can give yourself permission to ignore all of those really beautiful fonts that you might have collected in the past or that you see across the social channels of other businesses. As pretty as they might be, if they're not part of your brand fonts, you shouldn't be using them in your graphics and your marketing materials if you want your content to look consistently on brand, if you want it to look consistently professional, which is why I stopped downloading the free fonts from Creative Market when they had them every week. I used to have a little reminder to do that, and I had a great big folder full of them, but I really couldn't use them for anything other than personal projects. So sometimes it's nice to have limitations, otherwise you can end up getting a little carried away. And then the final piece of your brand kit is going to be your brand imagery. And Canva does now enable you to add your photos, your brand graphics, and if you have them, brand icons into your Canva brand kit as well. So brand photos is fairly self-explanatory. That might include, if you have photos from brand photo shoots, if you have headshots, even if you had styled stock imagery that you regularly use for designing, you might add that in there. Graphics are going to be things like patterns or textures or illustrations that you use as part of your branding and your design. And then finally, there's a brand icon section, which you may or may not have. I don't have any, so I don't have anything there. These are just options. You don't have to fill all of these out, but they're there for you to support you if you have brand kit content and assets that make sense to go there. And then once you've got all these brand kit elements in place in your Canva account, you're going to want to consistently, there's that word again, it's going to come up so many times today. You want to consistently use them on all of your future social graphics and your future marketing materials. And by doing so, it just makes Canva a lot easier and more efficient to create new graphics because you're already going to have a guide of what to use and what not to use. And then we're going to steamroll through templates. And then I want to create that social graphic. I'm watching that clock. All right, so let's move on to our fourth and final key. And you have probably seen other businesses creating all kinds of really beautiful content that they likely created in Canva. And you personally may have had the experience, though, of opening up Canva and trying to create all of those things yourself and found it feeling next to impossible to do, particularly if you're not a naturally creatively oriented sort of individual, or everything you're creating kind of looks cookie cutter. Regardless, you're probably wasting way too much time doing all of this when you would rather be working on stuff in your business that actually does move the needle in your business. So I want to invite you to shift your mindset about how you approach Canva. Take the pressure off of yourself. You don't have to design from scratch. You have an astounding number of templates out there to choose from, and starting with a template is often going to be really the very best decision you can make in terms of your Canva time. So why is a template helpful? First, they're going to save you a ton of frustration, especially if design is not your zone of genius. It's going to save a lot of time. It's going to, free you up to work on the stuff in your business that you actually love to do. it's very often going to result in a much more professional looking design because it is designed by a professional designer. So this is going to be somebody who understands design principles like layout and balance and spacing and contrast and all of the things that go into making a really well-balanced, attractive design that we maybe can't quite pinpoint what is resulting in that look and feel, but we know that something feels professional as opposed to something that has not been designed by a professional designer. So I like to break templates down into two categories. You have first Canva's own templates from their template library. Like I said, many of those are free regardless of whether you're on a free plan or a pro plan. But then there's also an increasingly popular option to purchase a template pack or a template membership from one of the growing number of template websites out there. So you've got, you know, all these shops and memberships where a lot of really talented designers have already done the heavy lifting for folks in terms of designing templates for the specific kinds of graphics and documents that you might be wanting to create. Now, this is going to be a paid option, whereas the templates that Canva provides are going to be included in their subscription price. But for some people, this can be a more effective solution if they're not finding quite what they need in Canva's template library. So I might see this, for example, in really specific industries. I did a training recently for a wedding industry profession or association, and there are going to be, you know, memberships or template shops where they have created specifically content that is meant for wedding planners, for example. And for some people, it might be a better use of their time to know that they're going to find the specific kinds of documents and designs and templates that they need without having to sort through Canva's template library. However, Canva's template library has a lot, and you're going to see that when we go to create that social graphic. It can be overwhelming, actually. So what sort of templates might you want to create or to use in order to create content? There's a lot more available to you in Canva than just social media graphics. I think we tend to think of Canva as a social media content or graphics creation tool. There's so much more that you can create. You can create presentations, which you can also present in Canva, which is what I'm doing right now. They also have a lot of great elements to enable you to create graphs and charts and infographics. So those can be fantastic ways of representing data in your presentations or your marketing materials. You can create branded greeting cards. I have done this in the past to create welcome kits for students in programs that I've run. And I typically create a branded holiday card every December in order to send out for my business. And then you can even use it to create a simple single page website if you wanted to share or promote a project or business. So on that note, I will say that you might remember in the introduction, I ran a website development agency for 2 decades. So I would still recommend a proper website building software or platform to build your website. But if a single page Canva website might do in a pinch if you needed something simple and attractive until you just to support a quick project or until you are ready to set it up on something more robust. The point is that if there's something you want to design to support your business, there's a really good chance you can create it in Canva, and there's most likely already a template out there that you can use as a starting point. So let's really quickly talk about what it looks like when you customize templates for your branding. It's important to understand that not all templates are going to work for every brand. But part of the fun of using Canva is that experimentation and the playing and the figuring out what feels like a fit for you. But you do need to ensure that you choose a template design that's at least generally in line with the aesthetic of your branding. So for example, I'm never going to start with a template like this because I don't use shapes like this in my branding. And to make it usable for my visual brand, I would need to delete all of those kind of funky shapes, and I wouldn't be left with much of a design by the time I did that. So I might as well start with something else to begin with. We're just going to hop over that one. All right, so I might start with a template like this from Canva's template library, and then by removing elements I don't need, by replacing the background image, by updating the text colors and the formatting, and then adding some of my own visual assets like my logo and this pattern overlay, I can turn it into something that would work for my brand. So start with that. And it's the same template changed to that. Really quick, let's run through some examples of what it can look like when you customize a template for different brands. I will run through these really quickly. So here's the template for some social graphics, and then those same templates customized for a variety of different brands. And then an ebook template And then we have a workbook template, customized, a few different brands, checklist, all the same starting point, and then a slide deck for presentations. And then finally, a set of promotional graphics, which end up looking a little different. So at the end of the day, the key is to use that brand kit in Canva and to make customization choices that are always going to be consistent with your established visual branding. So the fonts you're choosing need to be your brand fonts. The colors you're choosing need to be your brand colors. So let's do a quick recap. The 4 steps I want you to think about when you're approaching Canva for your graphics and marketing material creation are to choose the right plan for your needs. You need to get organized in Canva so you don't lose your mind later. You need to set up and consistently use that Canva brand kit. And then you need to start with templates. You know, really, it's important to start with templates whenever it makes sense. I do have also I talked about a freebie earlier, but I also have a free introduction to Canva resource bundle. It's got a couple trainings and some downloads that might be helpful for you. There's no cost to that. There's also no email opt-in needed for that. It's just available on demand for you to access. And that's just brendacadman.com/Canva introduction. And then if you're looking for something a little more comprehensive and step-by-step, I have a $67 self-paced program. So you can go at your own pace. You have lifetime access to the video content. And that gives you a bit of a crash course on how to navigate the platform, how to use all of the various design elements inside of Canva, how to set up that brand kit kind of step-by-step, and how to find and customize templates. And then that is where you can find me. And I want to, in the last little bit here, hop into Canva directly. We're going to stop share. And then let me close this. All right. And now we will go back in to Canva. And while I'm jumping to the templates library, are there any questions that I can
I had no
address?
idea Canva did so much. This has been phenomenal.
It's very robust. It does a lot more than I think people realize that it is capable of doing. I mean, there's even whiteboards. There's like a tremendous amount. It's a little overwhelming for a lot of folks. So what I want to show you is templates area here. If you go into templates, this is potentially overwhelming, but this is where you're going to come to find a template. So if you wanted to create a social media post, let's say you wanted to create something for Instagram, I could just search on Instagram post and I can hit enter. And now it's going to give me 480,945 templates. Would you like to narrow that down? So let's narrow that down. And you'll see here's something here that says all filters. So we're going to click on all filters. And we're going to start by, you know, maybe I don't want a square graphic because we really should be moving to the portrait size, that taller size. So I'm going to say, just give me portrait ones. And maybe I only want, you know, templates that they've tagged as looking as elegant. Now I'm going to apply those filters, and now suddenly it's going to narrow it down to 1,181. Still a lot to go through, and I could filter down further if I wanted, but at this point I feel a little more like I can, you know, manage scrolling through it. So you can also search for something that's more specific. So maybe I want a quote Instagram post. Maybe I want to make a nice quote graphic. You can get a little more specific and start finding the kinds of things that you're looking for. So let's just open one up. This is where you can get really overwhelmed. Actually, let's choose this one right here because it's got a few different elements. I'm going to choose to customize it. Are we able to go over a little bit?
I am
in terms of time?
totally fine with that. We are on an awesome roll here. I totally understand if anybody needed to jump off. Quick reminder that we are about at the top of the hour. So if somebody had another meeting to go to, we are just about at the so, but this
I just want to respect everybody's time, but I want to make sure that we go through this process because I did say that I would do that. So even if you can't catch it till the replay, I want to make sure it's on there. So here's a, you know, very standard kind of template, and it's got a bunch of different components in it. It has got a title of the post here. First thing I'm going to suggest, organization, rename it. If you are using templates, please rename it right away, because when you go back to find it later, you don't want to have to go, what the heck is coffee quote Instagram post? You want to know that it was, you know, we'll rename it here. Whatever you're renaming it as, you make sure it's descriptive, make sure it's got some keywords in it. So if you need to search for it later, you could find it. Just make sure it is going to be self-explanatory in terms of what it is. And then you've got different components here. We've got an image here that we might want to replace. We've got just a shape. We've got a little quote icon, and we've got some text. This is where you're going to start to use your brand kit feature. So I'm going to start by changing colors, and a little color picker is here. You'll see my brand kit colors are right here. If you have multiple brand kits, you're going to be able to click on this little arrow there, and you'll see all of the brand kits to choose from. So if I wanted to hop over to Jamie Lee's, now I have all of Jamie Lee's colors right here. So let's say I wanted to change it to that color, and then maybe I want to change this to be dark. Now I want to change my fonts to be Jamie Lee's fonts. Here's your font picker. Again, you're going to see it's going to give you recommended fonts, recently used fonts, and then you're going to see your brand kit fonts again. So again, if I wanted to change my brand kit, I could. I'm going to stick on hers. I'm going to change it to her font. And I'm going to change that as well. And then, you know, I might change the font color again to her brand colors. Maybe I want to use orange for that. And then I'm going to, that is cropped, kind of funny, but now I'm going to use one of her images. If you want to access, so we talked about setting up the brand images in your brand hub. I've just showed you where to change your fonts and your colors. Where do you find those images? There's an option here on the left-hand side called Brand Hub. When you do that, you're going to see all the components of your brand kit, including all of your photos and your graphics and your icons. And again, if I wanted to change to a different one, click on the brand kit name and I could hop over to a different one. But I'm going to stay with hers. And now I'm going to see all the photos that are in the brand kit. And maybe I want to pull this image in. So I'm going to pull her image in instead. I'm going to double click on it. I'm going to resize it. And there's all kinds of, you know, different kinds of image manipulation that you could do. I'm not going to do any of that right now. Just, you can see I'm using that little zoom bar so I can zoom out and see more of it. And I'm just going to, I can resize it to fit it the way that I want. Or maybe I don't like that image and I want to use something else. Maybe I really like the skull. Click on it and I can move it over. Yeah, I wouldn't use that one personally because I don't like the way it's cropping it, but maybe I want to flip this image so she's looking the other direction. There we go. And then pull it over a bit, make it a bit bigger. So regardless of what template you choose, you're going to be changing the colors, you're going to be changing the fonts, you're going to be changing the images. You might be adding a, you know, I could use some of her pattern into it if I wanted to maybe put a little of that in the background. Little tip, if you want to move something behind things, use this layers tool. So this is under position. You go to layers. This is one of the things that Canva did not have that made Photoshop better. And they pushed this out earlier this year. And there's a lot of folks who said, farewell, Photoshop. So I could just drag this to the background if I wanted to, or anywhere in between any of these things. I can change the transparency if I just want it to be kind of faint in the background. I can crop that a little bit if I want. So you're going to play around, you're going to move things, get them where you want them. I'm going to just remove that altogether, or you might add, you know, I could add a logo. Let's see all her logo versions. Maybe I just want to put that down at the bottom instead. So there's no one right way to what elements you're going to use in a design. But the key thing is choose a template that is going to work with the general aesthetic of your branding. Then remove the elements you don't need, add some of your own elements that you have in your brand kit, and customize those photos, those colors, and those fonts to be consistent with your brand kit. And then you're going to end up with an image that works for your branding. And at this point, I talked about being able to resize it into multiple sizes. If I wanted to now resize that into, let's see, what do we want to resize it into? Let's say we wanted to resize it into a Facebook post, so a little bit wider. I could copy it, it'll resize it. And then I'll have to do a little bit of adjusting to get the sizing right, but now that dimension is going to work on Facebook optimally. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow, that was fantastic. And I know I see a lot of people are having to drop off and such, and I know they'll come back for the replay, but wow, so much customization and options available. And so, like I said earlier, I did not realize that Canva was so powerful. And yes, I know Bill, he's gone now, but he said he was going to try that pro plan. I know I am. And Linda, she says, so much easier than Photoshop for graphic design. Yes. Felicity, a lot of
It
people
is.
just really, really happy with this session. Sharon says, thank you. Felicity's going to try it out. Got a bit lost, but very helpful. I've used it a few times myself. I didn't realize how powerful it was. So I know I'm looking forward to it as well. And so I truly, truly appreciate that you took your time to share with us here on the Coffee Connection. So much great information. I will circle back to you. It does take a while for Johnny to get the replays done, but he will get that up there and it will be available on the website. So I thank you so much, Brenda.
My pleasure. And, I know it can be very overwhelming. There's, at the end of the day, just focus on one thing that you want to accomplish in it and then take the steps to do that. Don't worry about all the possible things that you could do. You're never going to be able to use every feature. You're never going to be able to use every functionality. You're never going to be able to use all the components available to you. Try to put, wind it on to some degree and just focus on what you want to create. And then over time, your experience and your expertise and your competency in Canva will grow, but don't feel like you have to know how to use all the components out of the gate. It will not happen. Those of us who spend all of our time learning about Canva cannot stay on top of it. So you certainly should not expect to be able to do so either. So take that pressure off right away in your Canva, So
Awesome.
Awesome.
And I agree. There's so many different software available that you just don't use all of the resources. Some are a perfect fit for what you're trying to do. And so I know I'm going to brand myself. Yeah, everybody know what my brand is, right? Well, Brenda, thank you so much. I know we went over in time. I truly, truly appreciate it. I know everyone that was here appreciated it. Got a lot of thank yous there in our chat as well. So thank you and have a great, great day, everybody. We will see you next week. That kind of wraps it up.